Okay, hi everyone. This is Suzanne Raxisa here, the Mindset Mentor, as you know. And um, let's get my script up, shall we? So I know what I'm talking to you about. Well, this is Lante's Weekly Wisdom Calls special session for the 29th of May. And I've actually redone it this morning because as part of this session, I wanted to share my screen with you. It's really important that I do share my screen with you so that you can understand what I'm doing and what I'm talking about. And I noticed that the area around my desk appears so dark on the video that I've redone the whole thing for you because I want you to see what I'm talking to you about. So this is the special session for the 29th of May. The special session is called, it's actually called after a quote, and the quote is this: it's not the will to win that matters, everyone has that, it's the will to prepare to win that matters. And I first saw that quote a couple of weeks ago and I was bowled over by it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. It was written by a chap called Bryant. I'll tell you a little bit more about him later on, especially if you, like me, had never even heard of him before finding this quote. So we're going to be talking today about success. It's one of my annual goals for this year. And to be honest, I've always known that I have what it takes to be successful. I am ruthlessly committed to my vision, even when the going gets unbearably tough. And I start, and it's very rare, but I do start to have, can I actually do what I've set myself to do? I still say, yes, I can. I am really determined and I just keep going no matter what the difficulties are. I am considered to be a real expert in my field by my colleagues, which you have no idea how good that feels, unless that's happened to you too. I am a lifelong learner. I am endlessly curious. I was brought up being told that curiosity killed the cat. It doesn't. I am as curious as they come, especially when it comes to what makes us tick, what makes us excel, and what stops us from excelling. And I am enormously resilient, thanks to my first 20 years being pretty tough. And I take full responsibility for my success happening. So why am I not successful? Apart from 8 years of illness and other long periods of illness in my life, there have been an awful lot of fears getting in the way of all of these success qualities, and I've had to clear them. So my progress to success has been painfully slow. But I feel as though I've made a huge quantum leap forward in this period, 8 years of illness. And I want to talk to you about what I see as my preparation phases for success. It's important to recognize them when they come and know what purpose they serve. So on with me as your example. For the past 3 years, I've known that I'm getting closer because of the way my thinking has been changing. Instead of doing the same old and expecting different results, which is Einstein's definition of madness, I actually started experimenting with new approaches as I was able to feel well enough to be a little bit more lucid. I started asking myself the famous creatives question: what happens if? And what did happen? Well, none worked quite in the way I wanted them to because they didn't help me earn the money I needed to live on or to pay for the medical help I needed to get better. But they did help me a lot because they helped me refine what I do in my work in both of the languages I teach and mentor in. And that was a fantastic plus. Plus, as I learned how to manage the constant pain and exhaustion better, I became more and more aware of the direct link between the complex trauma of my first 20 years and my adult health conditions. So this was, if you like, my first preparation phase, seeing that link between why I get so very ill and more regularly, much more regularly than I would like, and the start I had in life and even in the womb, and the effect it's having on my success. So it was a really important part of my preparation because it helped me clear a big block to my success, which was around the archetype of the caregiver. And the question I was asking myself was, how wise a caregiver am I? And the answer was, not nearly as wise as I'd like to be and I want to be. Before, I tended to be a level 1 caregiver, where I was comfortable giving care to others, but definitely not receiving it. It made me feel hugely uncomfortable. So at level 1, we have our answer why I had such difficulties here, because our tendency is to sacrifice our needs so we can give others what they need or what they want from us, which means that sooner or later we end up feeling that there's a lot more going out of our care account than there is coming in. And we are driven finally to find a healthy balance between our own needs and those of others, so that our caring for others can enrich us, which is what it's meant to do, instead of draining us or even maiming us in some way. In the early days of getting ill, before my body said for the second time in my life, if you don't stop, I will stop you, and did so spectacularly on both occasions, friends tell me that I had difficulty standing upright after a day of work. They said I looked 100 years old because I was so bent over, and I felt that I was really bent over, that I couldn't straighten up. And I remember thinking to myself, there's too much weight on my shoulders. They said it wasn't right for me to have this sort of reaction. I said, I know, but I have no control over certain things. And I know that I'm an empath, and I'm really good at soaking up their pain so they can feel better. And they continue to say to me, Susie, we know, but it's not right. So I felt pretty helpless. I knew they were right. I was already starting to be ill, so I wasn't well enough to really do very much. But what I did know was that I had to start practicing tough love, where instead of doing things for others in my mentoring work, particularly, I focused instead on empowering them to take the action they needed to take for themselves. And as a byproduct, I realized how much more effective that was, which I knew already because my first degree is in educational psychology. So I know about how we learn best and what blocks us from learning, and the difference between active and passive learning. But, you know, hey, sometimes our shadow side gets the better of us, and this is one of those times. So once I'd learned to be a wise caregiver, I gradually started moving towards this big change that I know I'm already in the early stages of. It was moving towards me more quickly. It was still at a total snail's pace, but there were small signs of progress, and that was enough to keep me going. So I entered my second phase. That was when I managed to stop my acute back pain for a whole 2 weeks. About 2 years ago, by using an anger resolution technique that I'd learned from a colleague of mine who is a world-class coach and psychologist. He's trained in 4 different forms of psychology. He's absolutely brilliant. His name is David Gruder, and I actually now share his anger resolution technique with those who need it. I wanted to see how much of my chronic pain was related to my early trauma, and the results I got were absolutely clear. So I went back to the research on my complex trauma, and how it sets children up for adult illnesses, like certain types of heart condition, tick, chronic anxiety, tick, much, much better. I hardly have it, but I trip into it when I'm not well. Chronic IBS, tick, full-blown symptoms actually going on as we speak. Adrenal fatigue, tick, chronic acute pain, tick, as well as compromised emotional processing centers in the brain. But fortunately for me, my determination, my vision to lead the life that I was really meant to lead, and not the life my complex trauma set me up to lead, along with my psychology training, helped me sort out those compromised centers. And that's why I think I've become an expert in my own field, because complex trauma is difficult to work through. Even with a qualified professional, it is 100 times more difficult when you're doing it on your own, and you're doing it blind, because when you started out, no such thing as complex trauma was recognized. So we did not know what we were dealing with at all. So an important part of my preparation for success has been to let my inner caregiver teach me how to put my own physical and emotional needs first. Because as I age, it becomes more and more important to really take care of me and my body. Because both my time in my mother's womb and my first 2 decades set me up for a lifetime of adult illness. Now, fortunately for me, the flip side of this is that when I am well, I am really, really well. My cellular age is still, despite all of this illness, lower than my chronological age. I am really proud of that. I not only love being active, my body loves it too. It doesn't matter if I'm dancing. I've danced all my life. I won a scholarship to dance choreography, trekking, weight training. I adore weight training. I'm the only woman in my gym, according to my trainers, who love weight training. Doing Pilates or on my mountain bike, it does not matter what I'm doing. My body adores it when I am fit and well, and it adores getting me fit and well. So let's take a break from me at the moment, because I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you what's been happening to you over the last few years, months or weeks, because some of you may already know that we've been leading up to a massive energetic change on this planet, and the paradigm of how we live is changing radically right before our very eyes. Old systems of government, of civil and community life are disintegrating before our very eyes, and we're being asked to step up and take more responsibility for our public life, so that we can create a world that actually is in a far better shape when we leave it than the shape we found it in and the shape we've brought it to over the last few decades. So what signs have you seen that you might have missed now that you're starting to think about, particularly if you've been sensing a big change and you've been feeling a little impatient to have it actually start? Because I'm willing to bet, and I've never placed a bet in my life, that you have had signs of things changing for you that you've completely missed. So let's break it down a bit. Have you already made a change in some aspect of your life? It could be very small. Perhaps you've let go of a belief that no longer reflects you. Perhaps you've let go of a job that feels too small for you. Or you've started thinking about something or someone slightly differently. Perhaps you've seen another side of them. Perhaps someone new has come into your life as a colleague, a partner or friend, and their different perspective on things is influencing the way you think about certain things. Or perhaps someone has left your life and that's changed the dynamic in your family, in your group of friends, or in your colleagues. There will have been changes. Take a moment to spot them, because instead of feeling impatient about, I want to do this, start feeling, wow, I'm already on my way, because look at the preparation phases I've already been through. One secret to success: acknowledge your preparation phases. On to my third phase of preparation. With all of this intense release of my past through this illness, and illnesses because they have been varied, my third preparation phase has given me permission to just let go of my past. I woke up one morning and said, I'm done with trying to fix myself. I am perfect as I am. Even if I want to change certain things about me, even if there are things I know I still want to work on that are still holding me back, I am perfect as I am, and I am going to stop looking for the next thing to fix, because this does not help me. It takes my focus away from where it needs to be, because scientists have proven that success is based on not focusing on our weaknesses. No, it has the opposite effect. It is based on recognizing and accepting our weaknesses and then focusing on our strengths. Got that? Very important. So I didn't want my emotional and physical pain to block me from my success, so I just gave myself permission to let that all go. And I've been giving myself permission to be successful. Never underestimate the importance of this, because if you've struggled with a healthy sense of self-worth, this might be just what you need to get you bringing your vision as a social entrepreneur to splendid, vibrant life. So I have a daily ritual, permission ritual, which is based on my 3 goals for this year. And it goes something like this. First, let me tell you what my annual goals are. They're to improve my health, to up the amount of work I can do and the success I have with it, and to radically increase my social life now that I'm feeling more lucid, more sociable, and more able to be with other people and not feeling guilty that I'm not up to a conversation or I'm not a very good host because I'm simply too exhausted. So they're my 3 goals. So my permission ritual goes something like this. And it starts with the same words every day, and then it changes depending on what I feel. I give myself permission to. And then I will say, have real fun earning a lot of money, and have real fun at every stage of earning that money, right through from creating the project or the service or the program to sending out the invoices, developing the marketing materials, working with a technical colleague to take care of all of the IT and technical aspects of what I'm doing, and right through to checking my cash flow every week. So every part of that process I want to enjoy, and I give myself permission to do that while I'm having success with it. And I go through that for each of my 3 goals, depending on what's come up for me in the day and what just comes up for me to say. And that's had an amazing effect on my life. I started doing it last year, just before I thought I was going to have to go back to the UK for a while, because there was a lot more work in the UK than there was and still is in Italy. And I was getting just way too worried about my lack of being able to earn the money I needed to live on. So what I did was I gave myself permission to find the cheapest, the most stress-free, the easiest way to go back to the UK, to get a job that would give me the money I needed to live on, give me some financial stability again, help me start paying back some of the money that I owed, and also to give me enough free time to be able to continue at least doing some of my mentoring work. Now that's a tall order. I knew it was a tall order, but I just said, universe, over to you. These are my non-negotiables. The way you bring it to me is up to you. I will be happy with whatever and however you bring it to me. What I had done was I'd managed to get together 2 clients with whom I'd agreed a program of work. They suddenly pulled out, so the money I thought I was going to have to make that move from Italy to the UK suddenly disappeared overnight. And that was when, soon after, the universe stepped in. It had obviously been listening, and what it did was way beyond what I could have thought up for myself. And once I realized it, I was completely bowled over, because what happened is that the universe brought me 2 clients, UK clients, who needed guinea pigs to test a new program that they wanted to launch, and thought that I would make a perfect guinea pig. Now, you can't get a move with less stress or more cheaply, can you, than that? I had access to their contacts. I had access to all of the people they knew, both within the coaching world and in the consultancy world. I had free access to the UK without having to lift a finger, let alone a leg. So think back over your past 2 years. What have you been asking for or giving yourself permission to have, where you got so much more than you asked for? Did you recognize it? Are you recognizing it now? Because I bet there's going to be something there. And how did you feel about it? How do you feel about it if you are recognizing it now? Part of your preparation phase. Recognize it. Celebrate it. Now, the third phase of my preparation started in January, because January is when I set my annual goals. One of them is to see friends a lot more this year and to really start being sociable again now that I'm feeling a bit better. And an old and very dear consultant and shaman friend and I, we finally managed to get together. We've been trying for years. I told him I'm not really up to move, so you'd have to come to me. And you know, I'm really sorry, but I'm really not very well at the moment. We couldn't make it, but this year we finally did. I went down to see him. It gave me a great excuse to get out of the house and go to the south end of Lago di Garda, which I adore. And we're both highly creative, endlessly curious people. So when we get together, we do a lot of playful exploration and a lot of brainstorming, which we both love. And out of this came a program that I developed on the EQ, the emotional intelligence that's needed for successful teamwork, that we are hoping to teach to teenagers in the autumn. We've already done a demonstration. We got into one of the biggest schools in a big city near us, Verona. It's a technical school. Giuseppe already does consultancy work there. He introduced me to the headmistress of the school, and it's really taking off. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that in the autumn we will have paid consultancy work to do this for one of the most important technical schools in Verona. Yeah. So teaching EQ skills to awkward, hormone-raging teenagers, believe it or not, has been one of my life goals, because I don't want teenagers to have to go through some of the difficulties which were appalling that I had to go through because I did not have those skills. I did not know how to confront the difficulties in the best way possible. And it looks as though it might just happen this autumn. So a very unexpected benefit, which came from the goal to just have more fun with friends. So look what can happen when you take action and you act on your goals. It doesn't matter what that action is, okay? We'll look at that in more detail a little later on. Just recently, my first Italian boyfriend, who I had in my very early 20s, just after I'd come down from university, he contacted me through Facebook and said that he had lots of lovely, happy memories with me when we were together, and he'd really like to stay in touch. So I wasn't completely convinced, but I decided that I would stay open to it. And we had some phone calls, and I thought, well, he was a good man then, even though I don't think it ended very well. And he seems a good man now, and we still have lots of things in common. So when he said, let's meet, and he lives about 600 or 700 kilometers away from me, I thought, okay, well, how is this going to happen? I was full of work, so I said, can we wait until you get back from Spain? And he said, I'd really, really, really like to see you before we go. And I said, okay, let's do it on a Saturday. Can you make a Saturday? So we sorted it all out. We met in Verona. We had a lovely day together. We had lots of fun. And I now have a lovely new old friendship again. Don't know where it's going to lead. Doesn't matter where it's going to lead. What it has opened me up to is how much I miss my male friends and how much they contribute to my life. Plus, it's helping me work on my goals to see friends much more often. He has become a friend with history. It's lovely to meet someone who knew me in my very early 20s and to have him share those memories with me. So, has something happened in your life that has brought you totally unexpected benefits? Take a moment to think about this. And why did you miss it? Did you miss it because you didn't think that what you were doing was very important? Maybe you thought, like me, just having fun. Never underestimate the power of fun and the non-serious, the playful aspects of your life. They're far more important than you might realize. Why? Because most of us are so focused on big transformations or wins that we tend to completely ignore the small things that happen and the small wins that we get. And when I point them out to clients, they will often say, oh, that's nothing. Is it? Let's have a look at how nothing that really is. When we stop to look, we can often see a straight line connecting those small things to a big shift in our thinking, in the way we live, or in our ability to be successful. And when we don't see how much fun contributes to our success, then my belief from my own personal and professional experience is that we miss out on all of the pleasure and sometimes the sheer awe at what the universe has just done because of our willingness to take action of any kind. Now, the truth is that we don't really understand the significance of the choices that we make. We tend to think a lot about the big ones, like getting married, which university to go to, which subjects to study, or which home to buy, which type of job to take. But in the general scheme of things, these choices can often pale into insignificance against what we might see as a totally important choice that gives rise to other things, that when you put them together, they lead to a massive change. An unimportant choice to phone a friend or a colleague at a certain time, to go somewhere at a certain time, read that book and come away with a statement that is simply life-changing for you. Getting the hang of phases of preparation and being prepared and preparing to win, because preparing means recognizing that you're preparing, and the phases need to be recognized. Okay, so take some time to go look for them. Whatever big thing you're working on now, take some time after this session to go and take a look. Think with a pen or pencil. Okay, write it down. It makes your thinking and what happens as a result of that thinking so much more effective. Back to me and on to my fourth preparation phase. This started at about the same time as my third one in January, because at the start of the year, I also, along with my personal goals, decided that my personal study focus was going to be on the secrets of successful people. Makes sense, really, doesn't it? I knew I was doing a lot of things right, but I also knew that I was still sabotaging myself, and it was driving me mad. And I knew that it wasn't only because of my poor health. There were things that I was subconsciously still choosing to do or not do, and I wanted to find out what they were. I wanted to get clear about them, and that's what I want to focus on for the rest of this session: how we turn our preparation phases into success. Now, if you've spent any time at all exploring the spiritual traditions, you'll have heard about the law of attraction and how all you need for something you want to manifest is to set your intention for it to happen. Rubbish. I'm sorry to tell you, it just does not work for most of us, by far the majority of us. It does work, but not before we've cleared the beliefs that get us sabotaging ourselves. Otherwise, I would have been successful long before now. So those beliefs that sabotage us are hidden deep in our subconscious, so they're much more difficult to spot and clear, which means they go on unchallenged for years and years and years. Now, one teacher had a brilliant explanation for this. He's no longer alive, and I think he was a shaman, and I can't find his name. He described the conscious mind as the top 10% of an iceberg and the subconscious as the submerged 90%. And he asked his students this question: if the top of the iceberg wants to go into the sun to Hawaii, and the submerged part wants to go to the Arctic, where do you think that iceberg's going to go? No brainer, really. It's going to go to the Arctic, because that's where the majority of power in that single iceberg is held. Dr. Bruce Lipton, the cell biologist and founding father of epigenetics, says that most of us control only a maximum of 5% of our choices. That's because 95 of them are made in our subconscious. We've repeated those choices so many times, perhaps thousands, perhaps even millions in our lifetime. And by the time we've reached adulthood, that the part of our brain responsible for what goes into the conscious a brain and what goes into the subconscious, it's called the RAS for short, reticular activating system, simply says we've seen that 1,000 times, that can go into the subconscious, we can handle that automatically. That's what happens when our choices are in our subconscious, because we don't get to choose them. They're automatic, they're handled automatically. The subconscious mind sees the trigger and activates that choice. So who or what is really making our choices? Our woundedness or our wholeness? Now, if you know it's your woundedness, I want you to know something that is very important. And quite simply, it's this: your wounds are only capable of making defensive decisions because they see the world as a hostile place that you need to be protected from. So making decisions from this perspective is obviously going to scupper your success, no matter how talented or how skilled or how many influential contacts and supporters you have. Back to the law of attraction. For me, it makes absolutely no sense at all for us to have a big brain on the top of our shoulders, a second brain in the form of our stomach, and a tiny brain, as the neuroscientists call it, in every one of the billions of cells in our body. What sense is it for us to have all that brain power if we don't use it to the full? That's why I have a real problem with this very simplistic understanding of the law of attraction and why it doesn't work for many of us and why we give up on it. Okay? That's also why the quote that I've used as the title of this session today, that are actually a chap called Bryant's, his words are so very powerful for me. Let's just remind ourselves of them. He says, it's not the will to win that matters. Everyone has that. In fact, we are hardwired to win and achieve goals. It is the most powerful source of happiness for us all. It's the will to prepare the win to win that matters, as he says. Because our will is a strong intention. Will is not a word that's used very often in this context. It seems to have gone out of fashion. But it simply means, if you're not sure of what this word means, it's a very strong intention. But for that intention to be realized, it needs an action. What sort of action? Well, that's where our brains come in, particularly our modern brain and its ability in higher executive functioning, rationalizing, evaluating, prioritizing, all sorts of that. So let's put success together in its component parts: our will or determination, plus action, plus visualization of our life and what it will be like when our goal has been achieved, plus the passion that gave birth to our vision or goal, literally increases our chances of success 1,000 times. 1,000, that's a staggering increase. So who is Bryant? And what makes him qualified to make such a statement about it's the will to prepare to win that matters? Well, he died in 1983, but before that, Bear is his nickname, by the way. His real name is Paul William Bryant. If you don't follow American college football, like I certainly don't, I don't follow any form of football, except when our Italian captain of Roma retired from the game the other day, then I cried along with 64 million other Italians, I think, because he's been such a magnificent captain and football player, and he's just a great, great person. Back to Paul William Bryant, nicknamed Bear. He was a coach for American college football, and he was also a player. He was best known as the longtime head coach of the University of Alabama football team. He was their head coach for 25 years, which seems one hell of a long time to me. And in that time, he won 6 national championships, 13 conference championships, don't have the faintest what they are. And by the time he retired in 1982, he held the record for most wins as head coach in collegiate football history with 323 wins. Now, even to me, that sounds like a lot of wins in a career. So you could say he knew a thing or two about winning, and success is, of course, winning. And his knowledge, I think, is borne out by this recognition of his, of the importance of our will to prepare to win as the thing that really, really makes the difference. And I've been discovering this over the last few months. Up until now, in this session, I've been talking about the sort of preparation that might need clarity around our goals, the ability to see what's actually happening, but it doesn't really need that much willpower. It might need faith, it might need trust, it might need a bit of clarity and recognition, but that's as far as it goes. But as you well know, there is a phase in every project, in every goal, in every preparation for something, where the willpower to keep going and to prepare is absolutely indispensable. And I'm in that phase right now. That's why I want to share with you what I've been learning. Now, I'm sure I'm going to learn a ton more, but this is where I am right now. And what I've learned has been so helpful and is making such a difference. I want to share it with you. First, I do as I always do, my main sources. Well, for this session, it's Seth Godin for his incredible work on leadership. I cannot recommend it to you highly enough. In a recent study into the completion rates for online study programs, he gets a regular and staggering 97% for his leadership courses, particularly for his ALT MBA. That's compared to Stanford University in second place at only 44%. But even that is fantastic compared to the vast majority of coaches and higher learning establishments who get as low as 4%. In fact, we hover around the 4 to 10% mark of completion rates for online study programs. So Seth, just by that percentage rate, tells you a lot about his skills and how good he is at what he does and how he puts his money where his mouth is, if you like. Then there's success expert Brian Tracy, who I've been following very seriously over the last few months and on and off over the past few years. And he confirmed for me what I've always thought of as one of the keys to success, which is action, which explains why just setting an intention for something or having a lovely or even powerful thought about it is not nearly enough to manifest it. Okay, no action. Brian is now 73, and at the start of his working life, well, the start could not have been more different to where he is now, because he started as a labourer, and it wasn't until there were no more labouring jobs to be had in his part of Canada that he took up door-to-door selling. Now, he wasn't very good to begin with. I imagine that no one would be. No matter how talented a salesman we are, it takes us a while to learn the ropes. And what he did, and what set him apart from his other colleagues, was that he actually identified the successful salesman and went to them and said, what do you do that I don't that makes you so successful? And they were so happy that they shared their secrets with him, and he copied them until he became so successful that he was promoted to sales manager. Now, by the 1980s, which is almost 40 years ago, he had this to say, what he'd learned about success. He said, I've spoken more than 2,000 times before audiences of as many as 23,000 people in 24 countries. My seminars and talks have varied in length from 5 minutes to 5 days. I've spoken about a variety of topics. And if after all this, I could only convey one thought that would help you be more successful, I'd tell you to write down your goals, make plans to achieve them, and work on your plans every single day. He then went to say, if you follow this, it will be more help to you than anything else you could ever learn. Now, that is quite a claim, but his clients say that it is absolutely true. Something else that Brian says is this: don't look at what other people have without paying attention to what they did to get it, because success is a process. That is such good advice. So often we compare ourselves with other people, but we leave out what they've had to do to get to the stage they're at when we're comparing ourselves to them. Total waste of time. It's an inner bully tactic to get you sabotaging yourself, and it does it beautifully, because how does that make you feel? Not good enough. Bryant shares a ton of interesting facts in his work. Some of them really stunned me and left me completely committed to putting some of his advice into action. Here's some of the things he's shared that I have really loved. 80% of the reasons why we don't make as much progress as we'd like are caused by those subconscious beliefs. So if this is you, ask yourself what's stopping you, and then commit to resolving that behavior that's creating that obstacle. Please don't, whatever you do, fall into the trap of asking yourself, what's wrong with me? Because your inner bully is going to have a field day with that one. You're not going to come out of it that easily or that lightly. Remember, we are hardwired to work towards goals. There is a whole science behind this with a word that I can't pronounce. that I can't remember now, but there is a whole science, and it includes the fact that we are happiest when we're working towards goals. The word is teleological. That's the word. So if achieving our goals is a given, because we're driven, we're hardwired to achieve them, the only things we need to do is powerfully visualize ourselves living our achieved goals, and using our passion and respecting and honoring our passion enough to say, well, I can't be dreaming this to torture me. I must be dreaming it because it's something that I'm capable of doing. Use that, plus use your brain to plan for achievement. Okay, so they are the things that matters. If hard wiring our goals and achieving our goals is a given. Brian adds to this by saying there are absolutely no unreasonable goals, just unreasonable deadlines, which I think is great, because I always say if you can dream it, you can achieve it. He says, we both say it might take longer than you planned. It might take more skills than you thought you'd need. It might take a bit more money. It might take more external support than you originally thought. But quite frankly, none of these are good enough reasons to give up when you remember that your goal is never unreasonable. Things around it may be, namely your deadline for your goal or a phase of your goal. Think on paper is another one of Brian's favorite things. I adore this. People who write their goals down and then make a checklist of all the things they'll need to do to achieve them have a 10 times higher success rate than those who don't. People who handwrite as opposed to type on a computer what they want to remember also remember it much better, and they remember it more deeply and more widely. So you have been told. Studies that followed Yale and Harvard graduates for 20 or 30 years and also found that those who wrote down their goals had an income and net worth that was 10 times greater on average than those from Yale and Harvard that they were following who didn't write them down. They also had 10 times more success. So there is a direct correlation between writing your goals down and splitting them down into actions and your success and your income and your net worth. The very act of preparation, as Brian says, attracts opportunities for you to use your knowledge, your skills, and your experience to move ahead more rapidly. Because when we write things down at night, for example, when we prepare a to-do list, at night, then we've got the whole of the night, or before we stop work, then we've got the whole of the rest of the day and the night while we sleep for our brains to come up with great ways to get them done. more easily, more effectively, more enjoyably, and so on. There is a direct correlation between this, okay? So the number one reason why we don't succeed is a lack of willpower, otherwise known as self-discipline, okay? In fact, this one thing alone can increase our productivity and therefore our success rate by as much as 500%. I can't say that it's done that for me, but I've only been using Bryant's work for just under a month now, but it has given me a massive increase in my productivity. Another 500% increase comes, according to Bryant's and the science, comes with single tasking as opposed to multitasking. I'm very grateful that I've always preferred single tasking to multitasking. And think about the effect that that's going to have on your income generation capabilities as a new social entrepreneur. Okay, income and your ability to generate the income you need to live on is a really hot topic when you become a social entrepreneur and when you start up your own business, because you come away from the safety net of a regular salary to it's all down to you, mate. So 500% increase comes when you single task, when you start it, you focus on it, you get it done, not necessarily to completion, but to a bite-sized piece, and then you move on to the next thing. So while I was excited about radically upping my productivity and focus, and hopefully radically reducing my stress, once I sat down to write my plans on paper, then the doubt and the blur set in. I told myself I didn't have the time to do all of this extra work. I was tired. I just finished a full day of work. I didn't have the energy. But actually, I said, no, I'm going to do this. I decided to trust Bryant and the benefits he spoke about, because I knew that, just as he says, every minute spent planning saves 10 minutes of execution. That's a big save when you add all of that up to the end of the year. So this front end investment, I knew had a lot of truth in it, and I wanted to give it a go, because let's face it, what did I have to lose? So how has it been for me putting Bryant's experience into action? Well, this is the time when I get to screen share with you. So I'm just going to do a quick flip and call up my screen share to here. So I now have quite detailed project development plans. This is one of my development plans for a new 90-day breakthrough program on your 3 inner saboteurs that I'm planning to introduce, as you can see, in the first week of September. And this is all of the materials I will be giving with it. So a workbook, a 40-minute webinar, most weeks a 5-minute video on Tuesdays every week, a 40-minute expert interview most weeks, a 1-hour surgery every week on Thursdays, one-to-one sessions at the end, and supplementary materials. These, at the moment, I've just worked on mindset shifts, but there will be other things. Some will be given by the experts who I'm interviewing for you. So this is everything that I need to do on a week-by-week basis. As you can see, I've split it all down for this one project, okay? The other project contains costings, admin, technical work, where all of this fits in, the preparation of all of this fits in, and how it fits in and how it gets done. So this is one thing that I have that I do for my projects now. Then I'm going to pull up another one for you. This is my annual goals sheet. And as you can see down here, I have 3 annual goals: health, social, and work. And each of these 3 big goals has 3 smaller goals. So I'm going to share this screen with you. My first goal is to go from 4 sleepless nights a week. For the past 8 years, I've been getting to sleep around 3 or 4 in the morning. and sleeping for about 3 or 4 hours a night maximum, to 0 sleepless nights a week. Yay! 2, resolve my IBS, my irritable bowel syndrome, and my adrenal fatigue. That's going to take some while, but I'm already working on it. 3, return to optimum physical activity, to the things I love. Maybe doing some 5-rhythm dancing, if I can find a course near me. Mountain biking, I adore being on my mountain bike. Trekking, being in the gym. Can't do sailing anymore because of my back, but I can do trekking so long as I don't carry too much on my back. And I can do mountain biking so long as I don't keep my back in the bent position for too long. So this is a very simple thing. This is the way I've organized it. The months, you can see on the column on the left, what I'm maintaining, the things I'm already do that I want to make sure I keep doing and I want to keep myself accountable to. Later on, you will see how everything in this column gets transferred to my monthly and weekly and daily work program, and it will get spread out over the week or over the month, depending on what I'm happening. This is the column where I want to introduce something new. So this month I've introduced a heaped teaspoon of L-glutamine nightly because it is a massive building block for amino acids, which I'm desperately missing because of all the stress, and it's having amazing results already. Why am I doing it? I want to know why I am doing this. What's the benefit? How does doing this feed into my 3 goals? And then what improvements I notice. So I do that for health, social, and work. And then I want to show you the last one, which is the one that I work from every single day. Now, you might have noticed on the other Excel sheet that some things are written in black and some things are written in this turquoise. That's because turquoise says I've done it. Black says I haven't done it. Now you can see that there's no more than 8 items on a daily list, okay? But the beauty of this is that when I wake up in the morning and I get ready for work, I open my computer. This is the first file I open, and I check to see what I've got to do. Now, I don't put them in any particular order, but I do choose the job that's perhaps the most difficult, that's going to take the most brain power from me to do first, because our first 2.5 hours of our working day is our most productive, and I take advantage of that, okay? So you can see it will have my mentoring work in, it will have my emotional intelligence, creative teams work in it. It will have my administration in. As I work through this, you will see I have codes. So I will have ENG for English teaching. I will have, or English consultancy, English language consultancy. I will have blog because I need to write a blog each week. I will have Belbin because that's my emotional intelligence and creative teamwork. I will have SAMM, that's my Susanna Axisa mindset mentor, admin, bills, personal. Everything and every goal that I have that I want to keep myself accountable to goes on this sheet on a set day, so that I look at that and I think that's all I've got to do today. It works. I'm going to tell you why. And at this stage, I'm going to stop my screen share. Okay, so this is why, if I can find. So as you've already seen, I've got my annual goals sheet with 3 goals, each with 3 mini goals. My monthly goals sheet that's broken down into months, then weeks and days and activities for all of for every single day and every week and every month. And this is the sheet I work from, as I said, every day, because everything from all the other sheets ends up on that one. So I have everything in one place. It is quite simply a cut and paste operation for at the beginning of each month. I go, okay, June is coming up. In fact, tomorrow is June. So on Sunday, I just cut and pasted every activity for June into my monthly goals sheet breakdown, and then spread them over the month in a workable way so that I had an even flow of big jobs, small jobs, and everything else. At the end of each month, I simply transfer all the activities for the new month to the monthly worksheet. So I work from that one document, from the one segment that says today's date and the 8 things I've got to do. Sometimes they're not 8 things. And I add at the beginning of every week, every admin task that's come up, the regular appointments with clients and groups, and whatever else that I see needs doing, because what I've been doing in the previous week has given rise to extra things that I will need to do. Today, I had a conversation with my bank manager. It's given me something else I need to do, which I will put on my list. The planning saves me a ton of time. It saves me a ton of frustration. I start each day knowing exactly what I've got to do, and I'm happy to do it because I give myself a mix of tasks that works best for me. So I like to focus for long periods and get something done, a phase of something really done. And then that gives me a sense of satisfaction. And then I hop from one small thing to another and sprinkle all of that with exercise breaks to keep me accountable to my exercise. And I limit myself, as I've said, to 6 or 7 activities a day. And I start with the task that will take the most brain power because I'm the freshest. So that task will be less difficult, less stressful, and I will enjoy it more. Every Sunday, I update my my weekly goals and my monthly goals where I need them. I update the appointments that have come through because I have an online appointment booking system. So it's all managed in manageable bites for me. And what I do is, by spacing out a week's activities or a month's activities from one document into my daily worksheet and my weekly and monthly worksheet, I can space them out over the month. So I always have the right sort of mix of big jobs and small jobs, so I can give my brain a rest after a long writing stint, for example, with a phone call or an email, something that's simple to do and gives me a great sense of satisfaction because I can turn it to turquoise on my list and have, yeah, done another thing. My study needs are also included on my to-do list, so I actually get to watch the webinars and I plan for them. The webinars and the videos that help me move forward with my other goal, or the book that I want to read as part of my ongoing training. I plan for all of that. I plan for phone calls to friends. I plan for my exercise activities in all of that. So it's staring me in the face every single day. It doesn't overwhelm me. It actually, oh yes, well, after that big writing stint, what I really need to do is do that 30-minute workout. So that'll be perfect for me. I'll enjoy that and it will relax my back and my body. So lots and lots of things are falling into place for me that are helping me prepare to win. And the way I'm preparing to win is by developing a system that allows me to be as productive as possible. One more important point, my daily list also includes every single new habit I want to introduce from my annual goals list that I know might easily fall between the gaps of other bigger, but perhaps less important tasks. So it's all down there, okay? Knowing that my annual goals feed into my monthly and my daily worksheets means I'm far more relaxed because I know I'm not missing something important. And I get a daily reminder of my long-term goals, which is fantastic for me. It really works. If I think of another important task that I need to add to any of these Excel sheets while I'm relaxing, I will simply make a quick note of it. And then when I next open up my computer, I've got it there and I put it straight into the relevant list. As you know, I've always preferred single tasking to multitasking, so I split all of my big jobs down into no more than 2 or 3 hour activities. So things like a blog that can take me up to 10 hours to write, I split into manageable segments for my list. So I will have complete first draft of this week's blog on Monday, for example, complete second draft on Tuesday, complete third draft on Thursday, post on Friday, for example, so that I get through it in a manageable, stress-free way. I've told you I can't believe how much more productive I'm being and how much more progress I'm making on my annual goals. That's really, really satisfying, and how much I'm enjoying this system and the freedom and the results and the satisfaction those results give me. It is the best way I've ever found to prepare to win. If I have an ill day, which I still do, getting less frequent, but I still have them, I can let myself be ill without worrying about falling behind. Before, I used to fight with myself. Am I really ill? Am I really, really ill? No, I can do something. And it wasn't until I tried to get up and the whole room spun, or I just thought, no, I am really ill. I have to sit back. But every so often during the day, I go, no, let's try now. I give up now. I am ill without worrying. I just let myself be ill because I know that my good days are really, really good. Besides which, I've got everything planned out, so it will be easy to catch up on things if I need to. So let me end this special session by asking you this. How seriously are you taking your goal success? Perhaps you've got annual goals for this year. Perhaps you've got goals for your social enterprise. Whatever you're doing, you will have a goal of some form or other. How fully are you giving yourself permission to achieve them? And how dedicated are you to doing whatever it takes to make them happen? Here in Italy, there's a TV commercial, which I don't remember anything else about, apart from the one tagline it writes across the screen at the end. And it simply says this: improving yourself every day is simply a question of choice. Make sure that you make a conscious choice to prepare for your success. Remember the value of an upfront investment in your success, and what a huge change it can make to that success when it comes, and how much more satisfying that is going to be. How are you choosing to improve your own goal success rate? Are you consciously making choices, or are you letting your subconscious make them for you? And if you are, what do you plan to do about that? Well, that's it for today. Join us in 2 weeks' time for another special session. I have absolutely no idea what it's going to be about, but I do know that I will know when I've taken the actions that will ensure that I can recognize the idea when it decides to reveal itself, and when it's time for me to know. So until then, or whenever we next meet again, this is Susanna, the Mindset Mentor, just saying, have fun. Never underestimate the value of fun, and never underestimate the value of the preparation you've already been doing that you might not have noticed.